In a sprawling mansion tucked away in the hills of an affluent city, billionaire Charles Whitmore ruled his life with precision. His days were meticulously scheduled, from early morning meetings with investors to late-night strategy sessions with his personal advisors. Despite his vast wealth, the one thing Charles had always struggled with was connecting emotionally, particularly with his daughter, Emily. Born with a congenital condition that limited her mobility and speech, Emily required constant care, and while Charles had always provided the best physical support, he had never truly understood her world. Into this carefully managed life stepped Rosa, a young black woman from a humble background hired as Emily's personal caregiver. Rosa's presence was quiet yet commanding, a gentle force who seemed to instinctively know the needs of the child. She never overstepped her boundaries, yet her warmth and patience began to chip away at the emotional barriers around Emily and, unexpectedly, around Charles as well. One late afternoon, Charles returned home earlier than usual, intending to check on Emily before a critical business call. He had instructed his staff to prepare a private meeting with his advisors, assuming Emily was resting in her room. As he walked down the long hallway, the faint sound of laughter and murmured words drew him toward the living area. There, he saw something that made him pause in his tracks. Rosa kneeling beside Emily, arms wrapped tightly around the girl in a hug, whispering words that Charles could not hear. Emily's eyes sparkled with uncontained joy, a sight Charles had rarely seen. For a moment, anger flickered across his mind. How dare the maid cross the boundaries of his family, of his home? But before he could step forward, he noticed Emily's relaxed posture, the lightness in her voice, and the pure, unguarded smile on her face. It was a happiness Charles had never seen from her in his lifetime. His initial suspicion began to soften into curiosity. Over the next several days, Charles watched discreetly, noticing the quiet acts of devotion Rosa performed for Emily. She would gently reposition her in bed when she grew uncomfortable, coax her to try small tasks that fostered independence, and most importantly, she seemed to understand Emily's moods in ways Charles could not. The more he observed, the more he realized that Rosa's connection with Emily went far beyond routine care. It was emotional, instinctive, almost familial. Unable to ignore his growing fascination and a creeping sense of admiration, Charles decided to approach Rosa directly. He asked her one evening how she managed to connect so deeply with Emily, expecting a simple explanation. Rosa, with a calm dignity, explained that she had a younger sister with special needs and had spent much of her life learning patience, empathy, and creative ways to communicate when words failed. She admitted that working with Emily was deeply personal for her. She felt a calling to nurture children who could not easily express themselves. Charles was stunned. The realization hit him that his initial judgment had been clouded by his own biases, assumptions about class, race, and the limits of a maid's role in a household of privilege. The shame was brief but intense, followed by a profound respect. Rosa was not simply a caregiver. She was a bridge to a world of understanding, joy, love that Charles had never allowed himself to fully enter. In the weeks that followed, Charles found himself more present with Emily. He began joining Rosa in small activities, helping her feed Emily, reading to her, or simply sitting nearby while she played. He noticed changes not just in Emily's comfort and happiness, but in his own capacity for patience and empathy. Rosa's influence, gentle yet persistent, had begun to transform not only Emily's world, but his own. The turning point came one evening when Emily, usually shy and reticent, reached out and took Charles's hand. It was a small gesture, yet monumental in its significance. Tears welled in his eyes as he realized that Rosa's influence had unlocked something within his daughter, something he had failed to nurture on his own. Charles finally understood that love, in its truest form, cannot be bought or commanded. It must be given freely, nurtured patiently, and received with an open heart. Rosa, aware of the subtle shift in the household, did not seek recognition. Her reward was Emily's laughter, the soft voice of gratitude, and the knowledge that she had made a lasting impact. Yet the bond she had formed with both Emily and Charles altered the dynamic of the household entirely. Charles began advocating for better support for children with disabilities, funding programs in his community, and speaking openly about the importance of emotional care alongside material provision. By the end of the year, the mansion that once echoed with strict schedules and distant formalities now resonated with laughter, music, and genuine warmth. Emily thrived in ways that surprised even the medical professionals who monitored her progress. Charles, once a man defined by his wealth and success, discovered a deeper meaning in life, one tied not to money or power, but to connection, understanding, and humility. In the quiet moments, Charles would often watch Rosa and Emily together, a scene that had once sparked suspicion, now filling him with gratitude. The shocking truth he had uncovered, that true care and love transcended social boundaries, became the cornerstone of his life philosophy. He realized that sometimes the greatest lessons come from the most unexpected places. And the people who touch our lives the most are often those we least expect. And so, in a mansion of unimaginable wealth, the richest discovery Charles Whitmore ever made was not financial, it was the profound, life-changing power of empathy, humility, and the unconditional love of a child guided by the hands of someone society had underestimated. Rosa had not only nurtured Emily's spirit, but had awakened Charles's capacity to truly see and feel, forever altering the trajectory of their lives.